Gündem Özel'de özel bir röportajla karşınızdayım. Ben Tülin Daloğlu. Doğu Akdeniz'de gerilim tırmanıyor. Cumhurbaşkanı Erdoğan Türkiye'nin sabrının sınanmaması uyarısında bulundu ve yaparız diyorsak yaparız ve bedelini de öderiz dedi. Ancak Cumhurbaşkanı daha önce Doğu Akdeniz'de çözümün yolu diyalog ve müzakeredir de demişti. Biz de bu vesileyle Doğu Akdeniz'e kıyıdaş olan ülkelerin büyükelçileriyle yapacağımız bu özel röportajların ilkinde Mısır'ın Ankara eski büyükelçisi Abderahman Salaheldin ile konuşacağız. Ambassador Salaheldin, thank you so much for coming on to talk to me. You have left Turkey in 2013, and since then Egypt has no ambassadorial representation in Ankara. Is this the first time you're actually giving a television interview since you departed Turkey?
That's very true. Actually, the first Turkish TV interview. I have got many interviews with newspapers, Turkish newspapers, and of course Egyptian TV stations and Arab TV stations. But this is my first Turkish TV interview since I left Ankara in November of 2013.
Downgrading the diplomatic representation is indeed a low point in Turkey-Egypt relationship, and the developments in the Eastern Mediterranean is somehow making the normalization of the relations between the two countries even more challenging. President Erdogan said August 26, we want everyone to see that Turkey is no longer a country whose patience, determination, capability and bravery can be tested. If we say we are going to do something, we do it, we will pay the price, whatever it is. But he also said on August 13 that the key to resolution in Eastern Mediterranean is dialogue and negotiation. What do you make up of these statements out of Ankara? If dialogue, diplomacy and negotiation is the way forward, what would Egypt be expecting from Turkey? And what do you think Turkey be expecting from Egypt to start such dialogue?
If the Turkish president made only the second statement, he would have made life easier for his country, for Egypt, and for the rest of the region. Unfortunately, he also made the first statement, and the two statements are contradictory. Because if Turkey is going to go its way, regardless of the interests and the rights of others, and is going to force her way on the ground, I'm afraid there is nothing left for negotiations and cooperation. Turkey, in the first 10 years of the AK Party rule, was following the second statement, the path of cooperation, of free trade, of free movement of people, of soft power of culture, tourism, of exchange of students. And Turkey showed everyone in the region and in the world that it is capable to be a member of the Middle East and a member of NATO and an aspiring member to the European Union. In the second 10 years since 2011, unfortunately, Turkey is following the first statement, which is going its way alone. And this is why it has become isolated, unfortunately.
How do you define the problem in the Eastern Mediterranean with Turkey?
The problem is exactly what I outlined. Turkey has all the right to define its borders, its legal rights, where to explore. But when the Turkish definition contradicts others' definitions, Turkey needs to refer to two things. One is international accepted legal principles, which in this case is the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea. And Turkey decided not to sign and not to become party of this treaty. And again, this is Turkey's legal right. The second alternative is for Turkey to negotiate with the other partners in the region, in the Mediterranean, some kind of an agreed compromise. Unfortunately, Turkey is insisting on going its way, and not only on the Mediterranean and not only on the law of the sea, but the other countries in the region feel threatened by Turkey publicly. I mean, the president of Turkey publicly and openly threatened Europe, for example, with refugees, illegal migrants, to open the door for refugees. He threatened Egypt with 20,000 armed militant, moving them from Syria to our western borders, where they can be a direct threat to our national security. In this kind of environment, negotiation doesn't work. We need a more conducive environment that would bring us back to 2010, when Turkey was a model for development in the region, not a spoiler of cooperation there.
Very recently, the Turkish people started to think that the regional countries and also its Western allies are all aligning against it. Would you share this perception?
You know, I come from a country where also a lot of conspiracy theories are going on. You know, in the Middle East, we are fond of conspiracy theories. But would you say the same about Turkey of 2010 and 11 and in even 12? Actually, Turkey at the time was the model for everyone to copy, to look up to, a secular democracy that is seeking zero problems with all its neighbors, concluding free trade agreements with...
Do you not regard Turkey as a secular democracy anymore, Ambassador?
Well, I'm afraid it's not my opinion. I'm afraid it is missing a lot of that in accordance to observers. I'm not in Turkey anymore, but I follow carefully what is going on there. Of course, there is a lot of criticism about harsh measures against opposition, against any criticism. But it is not only that. It is how to summarize a big country like Turkey in one simple gangsters, the Muslim Brotherhood. How can Turkey simplify its interests, its regional relations with all over the Arab countries into the Muslim Brotherhood? How can Turkey be summarized like that? You know that in Egypt, those who were supporting the Turkish model back in 2010, 2011 were many, many more the Muslim Brotherhood, because the Muslim Brotherhood do not consider Turkey the real, true example of political Islam. They think that this somehow is a phony example. But now, Turkey jeopardized its relationship with very important allies in the region, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, because of Turkish support to the Muslim Brotherhood. Turkey is hosting people who are convicted in my country of murder and of violent acts, and it is giving them Qatari money and giving them broadcasts, TV broadcasts, to try to smear the reputation of my country and to try to destroy our economy. This is really, this is not Turkey that I used to know. This is not Turkey that I worked very closely with Turkish people and Turkish officials at the time to bring our people together. And we were very successful. We tripled the trade between the two countries in 5 years. Here is my embassy photo. And here is one of the lunches I hosted for Foreign Minister Ahmed Dawood Oghlu, where we worked together. And with, of course, President Gül presenting our credentials, my wife and I. We worked to triple the size of trade to 5 billion. The tourism 4 times in 3 years. Cultural exchanges, even in the military to military. You know, right now, Turkey is opposing all the navies of the whole Mediterranean. But in 2012, 13, the Egyptian and the Turkish Navy was doing joint exercises. And it was the same officials in Turkey who was proud of the fact that they are making joint exercises with Egypt, the largest naval force in the Eastern Mediterranean. Today, Turkey is isolated because of its own policies, no conspiracy whatsoever. Because these same countries, I know there is a lot of talk about US conspiracy, Russia conspiracy, even Egypt conspiracy. All these parties were close friends to Turkey. The same AK Party-led Turkey, but with different policy. And the only difference is putting the Muslim Brotherhood ahead of the Turkish national interests. This is what we would like to bring back. I am not giving up, but I'm afraid I am in the minority. People in Egypt, many of my friends are telling me, you are illusional. There is no hope. We are giving up on Turkey and its leadership. I am still arguing with them. I hope that people who are listening to me today would help me out, bring this relationship to its course.
Ambassador, are you saying that your colleagues in Cairo has no hope to normalizing relationships with Ankara?
Every time I point out to a glimpse of hope, like the statement, the second statement you just referred to, we receive the first statement that would say Turkey will go its way, will use force, will support terrorism. This is not going to be acceptable, and this is not going to be tolerated, not only by Egypt and not only by the Arab world, but by the whole world. I think every day we are getting messages, we are hearing messages to Turkey to change course.
But the Turkish president, nevertheless, said that the solution to the problems in the Eastern Mediterranean goes through dialogue and negotiation. And when Egypt signed its exclusive economic zone agreement with Greece, it refrained from aligning with the Greek points on the islands. So many analysts in Turkey summarized it as a step, as a positive step coming out of Cairo. How would you approach to it? What would be your reading on that?
Well, you actually cited a very good example. For about 20 years, Egypt abstained from signing an agreement on the limitation of the exclusive economic zone with Greece, only because Turkey did not resolve its problems over the islands with Greece. And for 20 years, we encouraged both Turkey and Greece to try to resolve those differences before we sign agreement with both. Unfortunately, they were not able to sign, to resolve their problems and to sign an agreement. We only changed our minds. Egyptians changed only their mind when Turkey decided to intervene in Libya, not only by signing this very phony agreement, actually. I don't think there is one country in the world, except for Turkey and the government in Tripoli, that are recognizing this agreement. No one else, maybe Malta, but no one else. And of course, the Cypriot Republic of Northern Cyprus. But nobody else in the world would recognize the Turkish-Libyan agreement because it actually ignores all the international norms. It ignores a big chunk of land called Crete that has more population than Athens. And also it ignores all the UN conventions, including the most important one, the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. But what is more important than this agreement is what the Turkey is doing on the ground in Libya. As I told you, moving terrorists to Egyptian western borders is something that we cannot sit silent against, and something that would not help any negotiations to start. I remind your audience with a massacre that was committed in 2015 in Sirte, Libya, when those people who are in government in Tripoli today gave Sirte to ISIS, and ISIS kidnapped and slaughtered 32 Egyptians only because they were Egyptians and they were Christians. And they put that on live videos. We cannot allow this to happen again. Of course, the same terrorist killed the US ambassador and killed others. But can Turkey...
What does it have to do with the Turkish position in Libya, Ambassador?
It is the same groups that Turkey is supporting today in Libya, in Tripoli. The same.
Are you saying that Turkey is supporting Daesh?
Yes, ma'am. Not only in Libya, but also in Syria. When Turkey was for years trying to sell us some dialogue with many of the Syrian groups, these groups are on the United Nations Security Council terrorism list. But definitely, the groups that are in control in Tripoli are the same ones who handed CERT to Daesh. This is why Egypt said CERT, Gofra is the red line. We are not going to allow these people near our borders. And is it allowed in international law to move militants, armed militants from Syria, where they were supposedly freedom fighters to liberate Syria against a dictator president, to move them to be mercenaries to fight in Libya? Is that Turkey's mission? Is that something the Turkish people approve? I don't think so.
I do understand your point, Ambassador, but I think this issue has been discussed widely over the years. And then there is another side of the story which suggests that it's not only Turkey, if it is doing such business, it's not only Turkey, but other countries are also doing similar dealings with these forces in the region. So this line of talking, which only puts Turkey as if doing something wrong, where the rest of the world, where the rest of the regional countries are acting angelic, does not really make much sense to the Turkish people either.
Yes, you are right. And I fully agree. And this is exactly why when Egypt said that it would not accept terrorists on its western borders, in the same announcement, we put out the initiative to have a ceasefire and to pull out all foreign mercenaries from Libya. All foreign fighters should be pulled out with a ceasefire. So we are not trying to weigh the balance in favor of one side against the other, even though we are clearly, definitely, for the Libyan National Army and against those gangsters who are in control in Tripoli. But however, we think that this is something for the Libyans to decide. We put an initiative, and the Turkish official brushed aside the initiative. And they said that they are going to send more of those freedom fighters, so-called. This is what I am trying to highlight to your audience. Egypt is not trying to pick and choose. The same rule that's applied to Turkey should be applied to everybody else. All the other, I'm not anymore a government official. I am speaking my mind. All foreign troops in Libya should leave under UN monitoring. New elections should be held under UN monitoring. It is up to the Libyans to choose their rulers, not Turkey and not Egypt. We cannot choose for them. They need to make their own freedom choice. And I have to remind you that when the last time they did, they selected a parliament where they had no Muslim Brotherhood in it, not a single one. This is the lesson of freedom, that because Muslim Brotherhood were very successful in the opposition. You know, in developing countries, all the incumbents have problems and have things to be criticized. But when they came to power in Egypt, in Tunisia, and very briefly in other countries, they proved a failure, and they proved not allowing the opposition to take its chance on a free rotation of power. For Turkey to try to force the Muslim Brotherhood on the people of Libya or on any other people in the region, I'm afraid it is not going to work, but also it will only gain Turkey the hostility of Arab countries.
Ambassador, we started this conversation hoping that we would find a common ground that would open a dialogue and a negotiation, firstly on the Eastern Mediterranean. But as we are closing up the interview, you are basically drawing us a picture where there is a potential for Turkey and Egypt to clash in Libya. Do I understand you right?
Yes, not only Turkey and Egypt. No, Turkey and probably the rest of Eastern Mediterranean countries. You can see clearly that Turkey came very close to a naval clash with Greece, with France. You showed actually some of this footage. Now we have Cyprus coming out and saying clearly that Turkey should stop the provocation of this exploration ship with the frigates around it, forcing its way into what claim to be the exclusive zones of others. The US made its position.
But Turkey is also saying that these countries are exploiting its own rights in the East Med, and that Turkey has the longest border to the Eastern Mediterranean. So it's, I mean, the ways how we are approaching to this issue seems to be diverging significantly. It's
Yes.
as if, from the Egyptian point of view, it's as if you do not hear the Turkish side of the story at all.
No. I think you missed a very important part of my answer. For 20 years, we have been waiting for Turkey and Greece to resolve their differences. And we were willing to wait another 20 years if it were not for the Turkish aggressive, hostile behavior against Egypt. Not only in the Eastern Mediterranean, but by intervening on our borders, moving terrorists to our borders, hosting convicted Egyptian terrorists on its territory, giving them funding and broadcast to try to destabilize our economies. So if Turkey changes this course, definitely there will be an opening. And I remind you of one thing.
What would be one single step that would open up such kind of a dialogue with Egypt?
I suggested several steps on both sides, but I think the starting point is for Turkey to declare, and I think this would help Turkey not only with Egypt, but with other Arab countries and probably European countries. And Turkey should prevent any foreign activists on its territory to try to intervene in his or her own country of origin, being Egypt, being Saudi Arabia, Emirate, European Union. The Europeans are worried about those who have been trained and equipped in Turkey and then going back to do terrorist missions in Paris, in Brussels. Turkey should come clean of this association with political Islam and should not allow a foreigner on its territory to try to sabotage other countries, other economies.
I hear you. Now, one final question to you, Ambassador. What do you make up of the agreement between the United Arab Emirates and Israel? Do you think other Arab countries are going to follow this train and normalize relations with Israel?
You know, Egypt, like Turkey, has diplomatic relations with Israel. And Egypt, like Turkey, have no and should have no problem with anyone who wants to normalize relations with anybody else, as long as this normalization is not against us. So that's another strange thing, very strange thing, for the Turkish president to come out and criticize UAE for having relations while his own country has diplomatic relations with Israel, has military trade with Israel, have a sizable trade with Israel. So it's really very ironic and double standards. But to answer your questions, and I don't want to avoid it, we have a serious problem in the Arab world because our own initiative, we call it the Arab Peace Initiative, which was presented to Israel 18 years ago, that if Israel would conclude peace with the Palestinians, give them back the West Bank and Gaza, have them establish their independent state in accordance with international law, and have East Jerusalem as the capital and sharing Jerusalem, all of Jerusalem, together for all religions. If Israel does that, the whole Arab world and the whole Muslim countries, 57 of us, including Turkey, would have normal relations. Unfortunately, this did not happen. And now Mr. Netanyahu is telling us, no land for peace. It is peace for peace. The Israelis are going to keep the land, keep to occupying the Palestinians, and then have normal relations with the Arab. So the Palestinians have the right to reject that, but not Turkey. Turkey has no right to do that, especially, and you remind yourself, especially if Turkey is trying to pick and choose, and now Turkey is receiving Hamas, another Muslim Brotherhood offshoot. And you can see a lot of criticism for that. Turkey used to mediate between Israeli and Palestinians, all Palestinians. Turkey used to mediate between Syria and Israel, and we help Turkey on that. Right now, Turkey is choosing to side again with the Muslim Brotherhood, and that's another good example that the whole world is condemning.
Okay, so this is going to be one last final, and please, try to give a very short answer to it. Is Egypt in rivalry with Turkey in demanding the regional leadership?
I didn't get the question. You mean in competition?
Is Egypt in rivalry in the region, trying to get the leadership of the region with Turkey?
Well, I heard this statement or question since 2010 when I first arrived in Turkey. And I can tell you that our two countries are the largest in population. And together, we are about half of the population of the Middle East. Together, we have about $1 trillion economy. And together, we can do miracles. in competition or in hostility, we both lose. And everything Turkey is making a big fuss about today, it was getting it through trade, through peaceful agreements, through cooperation, and it was hailed and admired by everyone. We were only missing 100 kilometers of the gas pipeline, the Egyptian gas pipeline, to reach Turkey. If we have finished that in 2011, Turkey would have been a partner of this Eastern Mediterranean wealth rather than a spoiler and an isolated party who's trying to force its way on the ground.
Ambassador, thank you so much for sharing your point on this very difficult issue. What you shared is not easy to swallow, but let's hope that there becomes a way to start dialogue and negotiation between Turkey and Egypt. These are two very important countries in the region, and we can only be hopeful for normalizing the relationships between the two countries.
I am very hopeful that sensible people will prevail, and our two people will continue their historic cooperation that dates back centuries ago.
Thank you so much again for giving us the interview.
Thank you.
Efendim, bizi izlediğiniz için teşekkür ediyoruz. Bir başka özel yayınımızda ve özel röportajımızda görüşmek dileğiyle.